afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this session. It is really, really horrible for the people that have to talk in these sessions because this, as we know, is the graveyard shift. So can I please get a few thumbs up so that I know that the people in the audience are actually still with me and awake? This is really, really important. And while you're at it, can you just jump up and down a few times? I can't see you doing it, so I'm going to trust that you are. So we are very privileged to have with us this afternoon Greig JANSEN. Greig has been involved in the FMCG industry for most of his professional life. He was previously the CEO of the East African Bottling Company, the Ethiopian subsidiary of Coca-Cola. His role entailed promoting collaboration with companies to advance trading workflows across the globe and creating positive opportunities for an open society. He was responsible for identifying social responsibility as a priority, supporting sustainable business, and stimulating economic growth with smart business practices. This ultimately led to reinforcing initiatives that encourage human well-being and ecosystem integrity. So before Greig takes off, I think that this fits in very nicely with panel discussion we've just had about SMMEs, and he's going to talk a bit about SMMEs and how when they find themselves in exponential growth, they are not really unpacking supply chain management principles or applying them. Am I right? Is that the kind of vein of conversation we're having here? I think everybody at some point gets tripped up by it. But Greig, thank you for your time. And I hope that you are able to share your slides. Otherwise, you're going to be doing lots of tap dancing.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, Tanya. Thank you for having me. And looking forward to sharing my experiences. Yeah, look, basically, having come from Coca-Cola, supply chain is something embedded into you. It's very structured. It's very corporate. And, when you get to running or starting a startup and running an SME and you find yourself in exponential growth, it becomes something that it's very important. But this definition of supply chain management certainly stretches a bit. And, I wanted to share some of my experiences. Very much aware that I'm going through the graveyard shift, so I really, really hope that my presentation works because I've got a small, interesting video, I've got lots of pictures, and I've got a lot of interesting stories and experience to share in terms of, certainly my experience on the supply chain management within an SME that is in a very, very high growth phase. So let me see if I can share my screen.
Yes.
Okay, is that sharing?
Yeah, just put on presenter mode.
Right. Brilliant. Are we good there, Tanya?
We are good to go.
Fantastic. Right. So, without further ado,
Yeah. Greig?
PURA really started as a mix between my personal passions and my own personal wish to find a product that fits my very active lifestyle. It still tastes great. On one end of the spectrum, you had these high sugary drinks that tasted fantastic, but weren't really that fit for you. And on the other side of the coin were these super hot drinks that didn't really taste great at all and were very expensive. So there kind of exists this blue sky opportunity where you kind of go down the middle of the road where you've still got the great taste, but it's healthy for you. PURA Soda is a carbonated soft drink that is better for you, but still tasty and refreshing. It's a low sugar alternative, all natural flavors, no colorants, and very, very shortly, no preservatives. When I looked to see if there was any products that were similar to this, really noticed that a whole lot of consumers were looking for the same thing. 86% of people are trying to live healthy some of the time or most of the time. Very few people are trying to be super healthy all the time, and very few people actually don't really care. So in terms of the sweet spot that we found, it actually meets the need of the majority of we are exporting to countries currently. We've launched in South Africa as our provenance market, but our big bet is really the USA, where we've launched recently. We've had a very, very good response from the consumer and from the expert panels. We have a satisfaction ratio of 92%. We have won Product of the Year 2020 for innovation, as well as Best Tasting Product for 2019. And on top of that, all of our 6 flavors just won either gold or double gold for taste. Our tagline is Live a Little Pura. We really believe that if you're in a position to make a difference, that you should. No grand gestures are needed, just simple things. And a whole lot of small things really make a big difference. In its essence, Live a Little Pura is around lifting spirits in a small way. If we can help lift your spirit in whatever we do, we think that we've been successful. This philosophy informs everything we do, from having fun at work to helping people live healthier, happier lives. Join us. Let's live a little purer.
So that was the brief video introduction into our business and our brand. And there's just a couple of highlights. I just want to yeah.
Sorry, I just want to jump in here. So if you go to play another video, it's echoing. So it's coming out of 2 places. The sound is bouncing back, but we lost your sound just now. So if I suddenly pop up on the screen, it's because we can't hear you. Okay.
No problem. But can you see the screen here?
Yes, the screen.
Inspired by global trends. Perfect. Well, look, I'm going to summarize very briefly what was in the video, but I hope that people enjoyed the moving pictures. So just briefly, let me just explain a couple of things which become pertinent in our management of supply chain. So first and foremost, you would have picked up in that video that we based 100% on consumer insights, some very interesting things coming through, but primarily it's around the whole world moving towards health and wellness. And if you think around COVID, everyone wants to be healthier in an easy way. If we think of our core range around Live a Little Pura, Pura Soda is our core business. Effectively, it's a low sugar, all natural, no colorants, no preservative, carbonated soft drink, a healthier version of a Fanta, Sprite, etc., driven by people wanting to be healthier. We've got a kids range we've just brought to market. What I love around this is that it's a range of product that is healthy enough for parents, but also tasty enough for kids. 60% less sugar than fruit juices, and this was interesting because the marketing was aimed, 1, at kids with the faces, etc., but also 2, at the parents with the call outs and the low calories and the sugars, etc. And just very interesting. I mean, they all have names, and the lemonade version is John Lemon. So the marketing guys have had a bit of fun in terms of naming some of these products. You'll see some of the marketing stuff, and I'll explain that in terms of supply chain shortly. Big bright colors, a couple of T-shirts and lunch boxes, etc., that go with it. We also have a product which is Pura Buzz, which is the alcoholic version, low in alcohol, low calories, but super tasty and all natural. Built on the back of Pura Soda. So effectively, you can see that we've got a fairly diverse portfolio of product, which makes managing a supply chain quite interesting, because specifically alcohol and non-alcohol products don't normally travel in the same supply chains. Just picking up another thing that is a challenge for us to consider. We're actually exporting to 15 countries now, South Africa being our provenance market, the US being a big bet, and Australia also being a big bet for us. So, when we consider supply chain management and this rapid growth that we are currently experiencing, we kind of deep triple-digit growth, and we're very fortunate for that. We've got to consider how the supply chain works, not only in South Africa, but also how it works in those countries, and then more pertinently, how do we manage these supply chains from South Africa, and I'll get into that shortly. A little bit closer to home in South Africa, which I'm going to talk about the bulk of our supply chain management as it relates to South Africa. We're in all the major retailers. We're in the forecourts, Burger King, a number of quick service restaurants, and then some of the more interesting ones. We're in all the airport lounges and on some of the airlines as well. It's so important that when you grow your bricks and mortar, you are also growing your online presence. Again, it's a different supply chain, which I'll share with you how we're doing that. We're on all the local sites, but obviously as you go internationally, it's pertinent that you make sure that you're on all the international e-commerce sites. One of the amazing things around Amazon is Amazon process, I believe, around 70 million transactions a day. So, just putting that all together has been absolutely fascinating. Right, so into supply chain and how we manage that. Well, for us, simplicity is the ultimate form of sophistication, and supply chain is in support of sales always. And this is a little sales formula that I've borrowed shamelessly from Coca-Cola. But in simple terms, sales is simply a function of the number of stores you are in multiplied by the rate of sale. And we actually use supply chain for both of those in terms of getting to stores as well as the rate of sale that we generate in stores. So, traditionally from a beverage point of view or from a Coca-Cola point of view, where are the flows of product that we need to consider? Well, definitely our manufacturing warehouse, our other warehouses, our distributors, and then retail. Now, within this normal supply chain model, there's the push, which pushes into the stores, and there's the pull, which is things for us to consider from a sales point of view. Bearing in mind, we tell everyone that the whole business is in support of sales, and again, supply chain is in support of sales. So far, that's quite a traditional model that you'll see across most businesses. So if you take it a little bit further, where would be the critical points where availability is required? Bearing in mind the focus is on driving sales. Well, simply put, it's in our own warehouses. It's in, for example, pick and pay's national DCs, and it's in the retail store. And again, you've got the push and pull model because those are handled separately. Right. So now, bearing in mind that we want to deliver availability, how do we do that within our supply chain? We put S&OPs are critical. Again, this is something that's pretty standard. Primary distribution is critical. Distributor order generation is important to own that. It's important to also own retail order generation. Again, pretty common stuff. You'll see this across multiple industries. But here's where it starts getting interesting, because when you're in an SME and a startup that's growing fast, sales is something that you need to focus on every day. So when you step back and you look at something, you look at how you drive sales, you basically have to ask yourself, certainly in the beverage space, what actually drives consumption? Is it all that stuff at the top? Simply put, no. The things that actually drive consumption of beverages, one is brand love, the affinity that people have towards your brand, and number two, execution within the four walls. So therefore, basically, we term that presence in store. So that's very important, and I'm going to talk about that now. So therefore, if we look at our supply chain, and we've looked at the fact that brand love and presence in store is what really drives sales, our sales force need to focus on execution in those retail outlets. Therefore, they need to focus on order generation, delivery, account development, merchandising, promotions, all those things that impact what's happening in stores. Now, we actually consider that as part of our supply chain, funny enough, because again, our end goal is to make sure that we sales. Again, you've got the push and we've got the pull. And in order for the sales guys to focus on those above 5 points, it's absolutely critical that they have product available at all those key points to make sure that they can be successful. And that's the first point around in an SME, around driving those sales, is how do you make sure that you get into the most number of stores possible, and number two, that you are available in those stores to help drive those sales. So then traditionally the role sort would be, within manufacturing, you've got your demand and supply planning, you've got, company product going into your company warehouses, you then move to distributor and retail warehouse management, where you've got distributor managers, and then ultimately you've got your sales team. So that would be the traditional role sort. And, we've borrowed shamelessly from the strategics, and we still look at all of these things. But how do we actually do this? Because, simply put, we are a company of 30 people. We don't have huge infrastructures. How do we cover this off? And also, as a startup and an SME, because of the high growth rates, there's always constant demand for capital. So you can't always put in the best processes, the best systems in order to accomplish this. So simply put, how do we manage our supply chain when we're in all these countries? We've got different products across different categories, and we also have different countries that we are managing. So effectively, how do we do this? Well, let's look at South Africa. Simply put, we manage our supply chain through third-party management. As a startup business, again, we want fast traction. We know that sales are critical to the lifeblood of our business. So we put all of our own money and focus into sales and marketing. And then we also have specialists in our business that manage third-party, let's call it supply chain, to make sure that we get the most out of our sales. Now, simply put, from a manufacturing point of view, we outsource. You'll notice that in South Africa, we've got production facilities in Cape Town, in Gauteng, in KwaZulu-Natal. And why that's so important is because we have continuity of supply. Certainly in the beverage space, from time to time and fairly frequently, there's issues with CO2 supply. We've seen what's happened with some of the unrest in KwaZulu-Natal. A number of places closed because of that. And simply put, as a growing business, availability is absolutely key. You've got to get into stores. So first and foremost, in terms of how we manage manufacturing, it's all third party, but we make sure that our risk is split geographically. Within that third party, there's things that are absolutely critical to us. Obviously, we need to make sure that all of those production facilities have the relevant certifications and accreditations. This is something that we monitor very closely. This is another one up in Johannesburg. Again, we monitor this very closely, because one thing that we cannot compromise on is basic quality of our products. And at every single production run, we make sure we have a company representative who basically tastes the product and is present to make sure that the formulations and the mixing is correct, and make sure that product comes out of the factory in the desired way. Now, a little funny story around that is that basically we make sure that the guys taste the product off the lines every 15 minutes to make sure that the flavor profiles are correct. And we thought that this was normal. We forgot to mention to the guy when we were producing our first alcoholic range that he probably shouldn't taste every 15 minutes. Needless to say, there's a bit of humor in that. And since then, we've got people, more than enough people, always putting up their hands to go to the production runs of the alcoholic versions of our products. In terms of, we've got manufacture, then in terms of how we go to market, we basically segment, again, we keep things simple. We segment according to channel split. And, we look at retail, we look at HoReCa, and we look at convenience. In terms of retail, again, we keep it simple. We look at what is the best route to market per region within the country. We try to look at national players. We have strong people in our business who would work with our national player. SGX, for example, are the people that we use. But in certain areas like the Eastern Cape, we will use Bidvest and a couple of others. But long story short is that it's very channel focused. It's all third party. It's all against KPIs, and I'll list with you the simple KPIs that we track, and it's a lot of trust but verify. In this game, we need to make sure the simple basics are covered. Any agreements, because it's all third party. You might have your 50-page standard agreement, but the key thing that really drives these relationships is to make sure that every meeting has action points, every action point has delivery dates and people who are accountable, and then last but not least, that those action points are followed up and trust but verify happens. So this is retail. This is convenience. Funny enough, in convenience, we find that there isn't really, for business our size, a silver bullet that allows us to go nationally. So we use the best in class regionally to go to market, and also we've covered off kind of the main areas within the country. Again, making sure that we have agreements with everyone, we have people who manage that talk to them frequently, but that KPIs are agreed to and followed in a simple manner. In terms of HoReCa, hotels, bars, and restaurants, similar type of thing. It's regionally done, regionally focused, and we make sure that we get our products by channel into market at the best possible way, and we really make sure that availability happens. All in service of that simple sales formulation. Sales equals number of stores that you are in, and all of this part of this presentation is around how do we get into stores, because effectively our supply chain is in service of driving those sales. And then last but not least, within this, we need to make sure we have the certifications. It was very interesting because halal and kosher have actually been quite important in our lives. Going into the States, and then the area of New York, it's a big Jewish community. We're looking at going into Israel. And it's played a big part in our success. And on the other side, halal as well. I mean, we're currently in the Middle East, and halal is basically your ticket to make sure that you can be successful. And the others are really just mandatory. ISO 22000s, FDA, etc., are critical to get that done. Right, keeping it simple. What KPIs do we track? And basically, these are service levels we set with our key logistics partners, as well as our manufacturing people. They're all the common ones. We keep it simple. There's 8 ones that we really track: OTIFs, refusals, service levels, unaccountable losses. Again, we keep it very, very simple. And we find by managing these, we can strongly manage the number of stores that we're going into and making sure that we are available going into those stores. Right, so back to our simple sales formula. Sales equals number of stores you are in times the rate of sale. So, I've shown you how we basically make sure we get to stores, how we manage the manufacturing within our supply chain, how we're manufacturing going to stores, to the actual stores. But here's the thing: how does supply chain actually support rate of sale? Because rate of sale is the second part of this equation. Again, everything needs to be in service of sales. So how does the supply chain support the rate of sale? Well, simply put, first and foremost, we make sure that we have a very strong brand philosophy, live a little PURA, and everything that we do is covered around this. And this is the way how we talk about our rate of sale, and we make sure that we have emotive connection to our consumer, because when you have an emotive connection to your consumer, you are able to build your brand memory structure that much quicker and that much more affordable than if you don't. And again, it goes back to making sure that your sales grow as quickly as they can. Right. So in terms of rate of sale, these are some of the campaigns that we run. We do audacious things. Our brand is Maverick with a cause. This was one of the campaigns that we ran in January. Phenomenal response to this. But how does our supply chain have an impact on this? Well, simply put, our marketing generally happens within an integrated marketing campaign atmosphere. This is the key concept. But with this goes out of home. These are all billboards that we ran in Cape Town within the specific campaign. So, for us, it's around how do we get these billboards up? How do we get product into places below where the billboards are? These are things that we consider, and again, working through our supply chain, we make sure that we deliver to, for people who know Cape Town, one of these billboards is very close to Giovanni's. We make sure that we in Giovanni's to amplify that. So we constantly are thinking about our supply chain when we are looking at working on rate of sale. So this is one way we communicate the brand, billboards. Another way was TV ads. Public relations. Public relations is B2C, and we also have B2B. B2C is talking to the consumer. We work with all the major editorials, Men's Health, Cosmopolitan, all the major publications, and as we go in them and we have articles in with them, it's critical for managing our supply chain to make sure that one, we send them samples so they know what's going on. We need to make sure that we ship product and samples to them in time so that they can taste it. Simple things. We need to make sure that they arrive in the right kind of condition so that they're not destroyed, so that people have a phenomenal experience. And we do the same for chatting to the local tourist agencies, whether it's Belito, whether it's Franschhoek, whether it's Plet, whether it's St. Francis, all in service again of driving those sales. But our supply chain is critical. Again, we use third-party people to do this, and supply chain is something that's absolutely critical for us in terms of consideration. Even when we are driving rate of sale, how do we get the product to that? The same for B2B. B2B this is all around this last campaign that we drove. Phenomenal execution. We're around 33 other TV ads, podcasts, radio interviews around this. How do you win 0.01% of our company? And again, this was around supply chain in terms of getting product to the people. A lot of radio stations, small things that make a difference when you're on air with KFM or East Coast or Classic. It really helps and really helps your cause if the spokesperson or the DJ or the host is able to have drunk your product in advance. They know about your business. And again, that's where supply chain is a strong consideration, making sure it arrives there on time. Because we have a 92% satisfaction rating that we spoke about in the video, which basically means that once someone has tasted the product, they will either strongly consider drinking it or just purchase it outright. And because of that, sampling is a major part of our business and how we actually drive sales. And with that, obviously everything is COVID relevant, but supply chain is critical. How do we get products where we need to when we want to sample? And certainly in our space, because we're an audacious brand and we're Maverick, we always want to sample at those places where people need refreshment. So we've sampled halfway up Table Mountain before. So that's a place where someone who's very thirsty is definitely going to have a need for refreshing product. So again, a lot of planning goes into supply chain, and I'm hoping I'm just sharing with you guys that supply chain is not just the traditional sense of things when you consider this high growth business. And because we're high growth, and because we want to talk to these consumers, and because we're engaging, it's critical that we strongly consider how we get product where we need to sample these people and make sure that they have a good experience. So a simple thing on this is that we need to make sure that the product is ice cold. It normally involves a lot of ice, a central place for people to come and pick up ice cold product so that they can sample to people within a localized area. But certainly is all a consideration for us. In terms of rate of sale, we've spoken about numbers of stores. Well, this is the presence in store. And this is the culmination of, making sure it gets there. This is what we look like. And in terms of again, driving rate of sale, this is basic communication that happens and how we drive and speak to the consumer. And we use supply chain to make sure, for example, that those freestanding units in the middle get to stores. They need to be able to be built quickly. We need to explain how we need to do it. Supply chain is critical to make sure that some of the shelf strips and the wobblers and the campaign aisle disruptors are put up in time. It's almost a very sequenced plan. I mean, it's pointless making sure that these things go up in stores when the campaign is over, or if they've gone up in stores not necessarily next to your product. So again, supply chain for us is managing rates of sale is much more than just the traditional sense of getting product simply to store. Supply chain in terms of our partner promotions. Again, these are one of the partners, Burger King, we work closely with. We've got a global agreement with them. And it's critical that we tap into their supply chain. They use a specific distributor to get to market, but then again, it's the collaboration between making sure the product is there, making sure the product is cold, and us driving our rate of sale through these combos, etc., breaking in time that actually helps drive our sales. One of the last points I just want to make in terms of how we connect driving rate of sale with supply chain. This is one of the last campaigns that we ran. And whenever you run a campaign, the campaign actually builds the brand, which is great. But ultimately, everything in our business is in support of sales. So with every single campaign that we run, we make sure that there is an in-store promotion that actually drives those sales. And in order for us to drive these sales, we normally get huge upliftment in sales. Those places of availability and making sure we get product to store is absolutely critical to our success. And again, it's the tight management of our KPIs with our partners, both in manufacturing and in distribution, that gets the product there. That helps mean that we have success. So simply put, again, for an SME, supply chain has to fit into this simple sales formula, and it covers everything from getting to those stores, again, to the rate of sale, and is critical to ensure that as a business we continue to grow with these very, very high growth rates that we're currently experiencing. Once we obviously are exporting into countries, the similar thing starts to apply, but we just need to manage it just that much tighter. Thank you. I hope you've enjoyed my different view on how we basically manage our supply chain and how important it is in an SME that is certainly fast growing. Tonya, can you see me? I'm still on. Thank you.
I can see you. You're full screen at the moment.
Okay.
So we have a couple of questions, but I just want to say that's such a wonderful South African success story, and it's always nice to see when our little businesses that started up small do so well, and that you actually recognize that the supply chain is an intricate part of the business and will help you grow and solve problems, which is, I think, a fault of many. But this is very exciting, and I actually have to be honest with you, I haven't seen it myself, so I'm now going to go and search for this product so I can go and buy some. But we have some questions here, one of them being, would you consider adding CBD to your products?
It's a very good question, and we've toyed with this a number of times, and a number of our shareholders actually own CBD production and businesses in the US. My personal view, Live a Little PURA as a brand platform is all around how can you be healthier in an easy way. We're not healthy, it's how do you be healthier in an easy way. And we think that CBD would be, just a little bit too much of a stretch for that consumer. I don't think they'd understand, live a little PURA and CBD. Certainly in South Africa, I think, we tend to be a little bit more conservative. We've just got our consumer around the fact that live a little PURA can also be an alcohol. So it's a healthier version of an alcohol. But at this stage, we think CBD is a little bit too far to go.
I think that you can look at a stretch on that in a couple of years to come.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And Tanya, just your question around you haven't seen us in store. It's that age-old story. Once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. So now that you've seen what it looks like, when you go to stores, you'll see us. Please try us. I'm sure you'll like us.
I have no doubt. I'm definitely going in search of this now. I'm very disappointed that I haven't seen it before now, but I have to be honest. I'm not a fan of shopping, so I get in and get out, and that's kind of it. I have some other questions for you. What has been your greatest barrier to entry from a supply chain perspective in the local market, and how did you overcome it?
Good question. So I think when you're a startup, let me start one step back. When you work for a major multinational, run a major multinational, you've got a lot of kudos, you've got a lot of credibility, and basically anyone will see you, anyone will want to help you. When you're starting as a startup, you've actually really got to sell your story about why people would want to help you. So one of the biggest challenges we've had is just we know who the right people are for distribution. We know who the right people are for manufacturing, etc. But because your volumes are small, you maybe have to really, really convince them that they are that they should support you. And really, the way we've been able to overcome that is, we're lucky we've had extremely high growth. But what we also do is we invite people onto our journey. And simply put, we invite people into something that we call our incubator model. And this basically says, support us now while we're smaller. And while we're smaller and while we're growing fast, we'll become bigger pretty soon. And when we're big, we will stay with you and support you. And you've basically helped us grow. So you've basically looked after your own future. So that's the way that we've been able to do it. But again, biggest challenge is how do you convince people that you should be working with that, yes, we're small now, but work with us now and we will grow and we're worth having in the portfolio.
Well, you obviously got it right.
Absolutely. Look, it does help that we come from the industry. We're very rare as a business. We've got some great guys in the business: ex-Red Bull, AB InBev, SAB Miller, Coca-Cola.
Okay.
So the guys have got strong reputations that we certainly leveraged off as we got started.
I think that definitely does help. I have another one here, and I think you did cover some of this. Did you need to have a large manufacturing capacity to get listings in stores? And do you have your own fridges and storage facilities at stores? You did have some racking or display cases, but I don't know about the fridges.
Yes, so we do have fridges in stores. We don't have as many as Coca-Cola, obviously, but in certain key locations we do have our own fridges. Remember that fridges help drive rate of sale for us, but they also help put stock in store because instead of getting in, I'm making it up, one case in a store. If a fridge holds 10 cases, then it's logical that you now get 10 cases into that store. So you can see a fridge as a way of actually getting product into that store, and we make sure that in the key stores that we certainly do have fridges. Now, in terms of the question around manufacturing capacity and going into certain markets, in South Africa not so much, but going into the States, absolutely. So one of the biggest things that goes wrong in the US is that people get listings, and what terrifies the retailers is that they are not able to cope with the supply or the demand for the products that or the orders that actually come through. So the fact that we've got multiple manufacturing sites, that was critical for us to portray to the retailers that we are in the US, as well as the fact that at a certain level we'll look at some sort of manufacturing in the US when we hit certain levels.
Thank you. I think that answers that question perfectly. Here's another one here. I have found that startups use a lot of established entities to do other work, like merchandising, warehousing, transport, marketing. Do you trust the smaller guys in the market for these auxiliary services?
Yeah, so we actually in this market in South Africa, we use one of the biggest players. We use Smollens, and they've got a great reputation. They've been around for many years, and they certainly handle all the big brands. The challenge for us again comes in because we're a smaller guy. We effectively are part of a syndicated model. So we're part of, I think it's 52 other companies in the baskets that they manage. So, simply put, we understand that, we're competing against those other 51 or 52 companies to get attention from the merchandisers. So what we've done is we have our own staff called trade activators that basically go from store to store. They work with the merchandisers. They coach them on our brands. They share with them what the right look and feel should look like, and they just support them in markets. Now, with COVID, the challenge has been we're allowed in store, we're not allowed in store, and we're never quite sure, and it's always a balance between the two. But long story short is its availability is so critical for us. Yes, we use the big guys, but we also use our own staff to make sure that that we work closely together so that there's product on the shelf for that consumer to purchase.
Okay, thank you for that. So I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Can I please get a virtual round of applause from our audience here, because I'm not sure that I can't see anybody, so I can't tell them to stand up and clap for you. So that's the best that we can do. It is a very enjoyable presentation. Again, a South African success story. We always love those. And I go back to Bruce Whitfield's session this morning where he talked about remaining optimistic. These are the types of things that make us remain optimistic. We can do it. So I wish you well on your continued journey. And I hope to see you maybe at SAPEX next year, giving us an update on your growth and how you've managed the supply chain to further, manage the expansion of the business. So the best of luck. Thank you for spending your time with us and sharing your knowledge and expertise. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon. Thank you, Greig.
Thanks, Tanya. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day and great rest of your conference. Bye.